Welcome everybody to budget meeting number 5 of the 2019 Township of Edwardsburg Cardinal budget cycle. And kind of 4 or 5 interesting items on our agenda tonight. So I'm just going to follow the sheet that I have in front of me. The next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Chair's looking for a mover to...
Mr. Mayor, may I add to the agenda, please?
an amendment to the agenda?
Yes.
Okay, what are we adding?
I'd like to have an amend the item including the facility operation position of our arena, please.
Okay, if there's no objections, I'm going to add that as item 5F it would be.
And I'd just like to give notice, I'd like to speak at question period.
And you'd like to speak at question period?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so then I'm looking for a mover and a seconder to approve the agenda as amended, with the addition of 5F. Okay, so I've got Cameron and Deputy Mayor Deschamps. Those in favor, please signify. Motion is carried. Item number 3 on the agenda is disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof. Are there any disclosures here this evening?
Here.
Yes, with the library, I have one.
Oh,
Had you met Tim, by the way?
no, I hadn't.
Tim East is our new chair of the library.
Okay, all right.
Nice to
So
meet
it's
you.
Jim East?
Tim East,
Tim.
like the restaurant,
Beg pardon?
like the restaurant.
Okay.
No coffee?
No coffee with me though, too late for that.
Okay, so what were you bringing to my attention?
I guess it's a conflict that we're gonna talk about the library, and I'm also the treasurer of the library.
Yes, but are you gonna make any pecuniary out of this?
I don't think so.
No, I doubt it.
But I just wanted to bring that to your attention.
Okay, fair enough. So, with Mr. Robertson's note, we'll proceed on. So, item number 4 on the agenda is delegations and presentations, and we have 2, so that's why Mr. East is here. And then the first item, though, is 4A, which is the draft budget number 5 presentation by our treasurer, Ms. Stubbs. So, you've got the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. If you can bear with me, there's only a few slides in this presentation, and it's really just to a preamble to the items that are on the agenda this evening. But what I've tried to put in this presentation is just to give council committee a little snapshot of past tax rates, the potential of a tax rate increase and the impact on properties within the township. So my first slide is just taking the total tax rate, which is including the township, the counties, and the education tax rate, and showing you the trend from 2006 all the way up to 2018. And you can see a couple of spikes. One of the spikes in 2010 was as a result of the township increasing our tax rate at 9.2%. But that actually, because the counties and the school boards had a slight reduction, actually was a 1.98% increase from the prior year. So from roughly 2012, 2013 onwards, we're below the value that was set in 2006. And I mean, I know that's offset with some increases in assessment, and that's one of the reasons why that's the case, but a major reason why that's the case is that the school board dropped. Since 2009 onwards, they typically drop between 4 and 5%.
That's the provincial education rate.
Yeah, the education rate. So it's just an interesting slide to note, the trending and where the next big increase that we saw where we dropped, we went from 2016 up to 2017, was where there was a combination of the county did a 2%, the township did a 5.54, and even with the offset of the school board reduction, we did see that increase from 2016 to 2017. But that increase was actually only a 2.74% increase from the prior year. This slide I clipped from MPAC. So if you go onto municipal, the MPAC website, this is a spot where you can go into their website and pull this map up. And you can do it for anywhere, any township, any municipality in all of Ontario. So this particular slide is reflective of what happened in this reassessment cycle. So from 2017 to 2020. And it gives you a map of the municipality and what shows basically the overall percentage increases or decreases in residential properties within the municipality during this reassessment cycle. So most residential properties saw a less than 1% increase in the 2017 year over the 2016 year. But you can, if you go on this website, and I encourage you to do that, each of the little bubbles allows you actually to see the number of properties and their assessed values. So it's a very interesting map to kind of go in and take a look. And you can kind of be able to see the number of homes and the overall values that they've increased and decreased.
Do the bubbles represent the locations where the increase, decrease?
Yeah. So
Oh, they do?
Yes, they do.
And I'm assuming that that's accurate as of April 2016, not
Right,
April of 2018.
Right, it would have been that, at that reassessment cycle. So it would reflect, so in the 2017 year, there was several that would have decreased, right, or stayed the same. And then there were others that would have been increased, but that's phased in over the period of time. As I say, since 2009, the province has reduced the education rate, an average of 4.3 annually. And it's mainly due to the assessment growth that they're seeing in the Greater Toronto area. They can reduce their rate, and 4.5% sounds like a lot, but their rate is really small. But they can reduce that rate for everyone and still be, they're revenue neutral. So I'm predicting, again, we're all predicting the same trend, which means that the township will be invoicing less on behalf of that school, on behalf of the education. The education reduced rate, on average, the payment would reduce between $10 and $42 annually. So on a residential property value of $100,000, you could realize a decrease of approximately $7.31 per annum, just for the school board portion of the education.
Well, why would you be invoicing less when there's been phase-in on each of the years?
Even with the phase-in, there'd still be a reduction. If they reduce their tax rate, even if there's a phase-in, there's still gonna be a reduction. It may be a lesser reduction for somebody with an increase, but.
Yeah, but where did this 99,000 come from?
That's basically the tax rate on the new assessed values. The 2019 CBA.
Go ahead.
So I wanted to show in this cycle the number of homes that either saw no change in their CBA compared to the properties that saw a CBA change. So it appears that there's about 43.7% of those homes, of the homes in single-family detached residential properties in Edwardsburg will see or had seen no change or a decrease. So if they saw a decrease, they would have saw that decrease in 2017, and it stays consistent for the balance of the 4-year cycle. So then I took and divided that up, and I looked by value. So under 180,000 or 89,000, there's the 39.8% saw no change. Between 190 and 466, there was 59.6%, and there was anything over, but there were still 7 properties, 0.7% that saw no change. consequently, if I took it to 53% of the ones that had changed, this is the increases in the phase-in. So I'm switching gears a little bit here, but you can see where there's 46% would see either a $250 increase up to a $2,500 increase, and then there's 23% would see 25 to 5. So the bulk of our phased-in properties will be $5,000 or less. A $250 increase is equal to about a $3 annual increase in their tax payment. So I know I started off with 2018, but I also did look back at 2017, which I think I already expressed that we had done a 5.54. County did a 2%, and the province did a minus 4.79. So the increase was 2.74% over the 2016 rate. In 2018, the township did a 1.43. The counties had no change in their rate, and the province decreased by 5.03, which resulted in a very minor increase of 0.01 in the overall tax rate.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Sure.
What was 217 again, please?
217 was 5.54 for the township,
5 point,
54,
thank you.
2% for the counties, and minus 4.79 for the province.
Thank you.
And that resulted in an overall
2.74 increase over the 2016.
2.74 up.
In the 2016 rate. That's where you saw in that chart where the graph started to go back up. So I'm suggesting that if the province continues the same trend and does a 4.3 decrease in 2019, the county has already indicated they're doing 0, that the township could increase the 2019 tax rate to 1.13 with absolutely no change in the overall tax rate, be the exact same tax rate. A 2% tax rate, municipal tax rate, if all the other factors are similar, would result in a change, and you can see the different values I've provided here. But on every 100,000, it'd be $5.58 or 46 cents a month. That's at a 2% tax rate. And that's only because if we're looking at 1.13 as even, the difference between the 2 and the 1.13 is what we're taxing on, making that tax rate increase a little bit. So this is just this slide's a lot busy, and I apologize for that, but it's really just kind of summarizing the budget as we stand right now, and giving you a sense of, where the monies were coming from. But what I want to point out in this particular slide is bullet number 2, and I want to stress the fact that at a 0%, the 43.7% of those properties that have no change in value will not be contributing to any additional capital or transfers to reserve. It'll bear the burden of the increases in capital or transfers to capital will be borne just on those who are paying phase-in or any of the new property growth. So you're only, you're making half of your properties pay the brunt if we do 0. So a review of the overall budget, again, 1% to the township here is $55,812. Some impacts on the operational budgets. We've seen this before in a previous presentation that I provided, but we do have CPI increase of 2.29 for non-union, 1.75 wage increase for union staff, enhanced CPP, both in contribution 4.5 up to 5.15, and an increase in the maximum earnings. The feds have done an increase in the EI earnings, WSIB earnings, and then with the recent passing of the Spencerville sewer rate, there is an annual increase of $3,050 for both the town hall. This is combined for the town hall and the Spencerville Arena as a result of that new rate study that was applied, and we didn't phase that in. So I've added that into this budget, this next, the revised budget that you have in your package. I also wanted to try to bring back the idea of the fact that there are a couple of things that are affecting the operational budget that we need to be mindful of. We have actually lost, like the increases of that 1.06 of the 2% or 2.5% that's in the budget right now is as a result of some decreased funding. It's not actually as a result of increased spending. So we're having to make up that 1.06 in lost revenue between the FCM funding and the arena donation. And at the Deputy Mayor's suggestion, the $10,000 that we've received from the Ontario Cannabis has been included in this budget, this revision. Nothing's changed in the capital transfers to reserves currently. We're still sitting at the same increase from 2018. And I've not changed the capital budget, but there are a couple of decisions in tonight's agenda that, depending on the outcome of council's or committee's decision, the revisions will be made, and then we can bring back the budget on the 28th with those changes. Again, these are all the capital projects that are proposed, and you can see there are the three decisions to be made tonight. This is the revised list that committee has already semi-approved at this point. Next steps, so after council has made these decisions on the vehicle and equipment pieces that are in the agenda tonight, the draft budget will be brought back to you on the 28th with the revised budget, an updated capital projects list with the sources of funding, and a revised schedule will also be presented on the 28th.
Okay, so thank you very much for that. And I think without further comment, we'll just proceed directly to the presentation from the library, and so Mr. East, you have the floor.
Oh boy, not much of a presentation per se. I don't know the etiquette here, but I stand here, I suppose.
So we have this sheet.
Okay, I've got it as well. Yeah, I'm Tim East. I'm the new chair of the library board. We're currently operating without a CEO, so I'm a bit new at this presentation. I might be deferring to my lawyer here, Dave, depending on the questions. The overall budget for the library there is in front of you. And I will have it in front of myself as well. The biggest line item increase thank you. The biggest line item increase, as you might notice, is our computer and supplies, and that is just due to our aging computer infrastructure. We're also working on our own fundraising solutions to replace our infrastructure as well. Our budget ask is the same as the year before, 105.5. And of course, our biggest expenditure, as you can see, are salaries and benefits. So not much of a change there. I would like to talk to you about what is going on at the library right now. So as, I'm not sure if you're aware or not, but we are operating without a CEO. Our past CEO, Alexine Merrier, resigned effective mid-January. And due to that position now being vacant, we have decided, under consultation from Southern Ontario Library Services to reorganize the organizational structure of the library. Now, what that is gonna look like is we will, rather than having our 20-hour CEO, which the previous person served under, we will have a 10-hour position based out of our Cardinal branch, and the remaining hours would be distributed to our library assistants, and we would also look into, well, we would also plan to hire a student page at our Spencerville branch. A student page has also been recently hired at our Cardinal branch as well, to offset a reduction request from a few staff members. This was done under the consultation from, Southern Ontario Library Services, or SOLS for short, and has worked in other smaller rural libraries. He decided to go with this structure because, well, quite frankly, we are now on our third CEO search in just a few years, and while we decided that it wasn't necessarily working, we needed to try something different. So we are going to downgrade the administrative hours for that. We'll then have them focus purely on administration, representing the library, supervision of staff, all the paperwork that needs to be involved, and the programming responsibilities that were previously on the CEO would be redistributed to the library assistants. And that is the trend that is happening in southern, in rural libraries across Ontario at this time. That's a big takeaway from this. Our numbers, our memberships are continuing to go up. Our Cardinal branch is at about 130 new card-carrying members, and our Spencerville branch is posting similar numbers. We're still trying to get them out of the computer or generate the report to see how many there are, but we do believe it's approximately the same amounts. Programming this year was a big year for programming. We had a large number of attendees, particularly to baby time, story, to various story times and that sort of thing. And that is about it. So I don't know if Dave, Dave serves as our treasurer, wants to mention anything else, or is there anything glaring that I missed? But
I have one question,
Yeah.
kind of started off. I realize that our CEOs have been moving on,
yeah,
but my understanding is they're moving on to full-time jobs.
yeah,
And one of the complaints that we hear around the table here is that the part-time CEOs that we start with always seem to be coming back to the board shortly after their hire, asking for more hours. And the reason they ask for more hours is because, they want revenue into their pockets.
oh, yes.
We understand that. So my question is that I'm really struggling. The advice that you got from your association was to reduce from 20 hours a week to 10 hours a week?
Correct.
If you can't hire, if you're having trouble finding, I find that strange advice. If you're having trouble finding people that want more than 20 hours a week, how on earth are you gonna find people that are prepared to come and take a job for 10 hours a week?
Yeah, I found it kind of bizarre at first when it was suggested. However, looking at the belief behind this reduction in hours is our previous CEOs aren't necessarily leaving because they're moving on to full-time positions, but because the organizational structure isn't necessarily clear at the library. Their job description revolves doing one thing at one branch, another thing at a different branch. And that was the advice that we were consulted with. Why would someone want to take a 10-hour position over a 20-hour position? It is believed, and this has worked in other rural libraries, that someone who only wants to work a reduced work schedule might be more comfortable taking a 10-hour schedule as opposed to a 20-hour schedule. They might view the 20-hour schedule as more than what they want, rather than, the 10-hour schedule. They might feel more comfortable with those hours and only wants to do some administrative work. And either, I don't know what their situation might be, like there could be a million different possibilities, but a person that has a partner that works full-time and they just want to work part-time, or someone that wants to add on to a current position that they also have, that was the advice we were consulted with.
If I can interject, what we were getting, the previous CEOs, two previous CEOs were new graduates. So, in my mind, they were coming, they were getting some experience and then going to bigger and better things. And part of it was the number of hours that we could give them. You were right about that. So hopefully we can get a more mature person who, as Tim says, would only want 10 hours a week. And it sounds like, talking to the gal from Souls, that those sort of people are out there and available, so.
In some ways, I was just curious
Yeah.
to hear what the thinking of the board was, because just for my own interest, but one thing I should make absolutely clear is that we understand that the problem and the solution to the problem lies entirely with the board. And so, all we really do is provide the grant, and then from that point on, how you manage the grant and manage the corporation is entirely up to you. Are there any other questions for the chair of the board?
Nothing for me.
I have to say that we do have, I think, a top-notch board right now. Probably the best, I've been around for ever. And this is probably the best board I've ever seen.
Oh, that's good to hear, yeah. And did you say a question?
Yeah, I do, just one quick one, and it comes down to the line of salaries and benefits. You're talking about a reduction for the CEO's hours of 10 hours per week.
Yeah.
That only, from your actuals last year to what you're budgeting for this year, only results in $800 worth of savings, but yet you're losing them for roughly
How did we come to that?
10 hours. You're cutting them in half, but
Yeah.
the budget stays the
What we've
same.
done though is we've reduced the CEO's hours, but given them to the frontline workers.
Yeah.
So the same number of hours are in total are there. So it didn't, like you say, just a very minuscule reduction in the total salaries.
So increasing the others that are there and hiring a page, as you said.
It would be a page, and then redistribute some of those hours to the library assistants to focus on programming time.
So you're taking that salary and redistributing it.
I think Councillor Hunter was in, and then go back.
Just when we're talking about the CEOs here and the small libraries, and we have as you mentioned, a lot of small libraries that have done that around here. Has there ever been any consideration through the board to kind of amalgamate your CEOs? If you can only give 20 hours, afford to give 20 hours here, maybe somebody wants full-time employment, but that only South Dundas can only give 20 hours to, that you could have a CEO that would.
John, their library system is a county-wide system over there. So that's out of the question, but there's always Augusta, or there's Prescott, there's an opportunity. And I know that Margaret Ann has talked to those librarians, and so, it's always a possibility.
There has been, yeah.
So just to partner on
Yeah.
that, Tori mentioned the difference in the wages here, and you're saying you distribute the hours. I assume that you're at a lower wage scale for them, that you're getting more hours from the frontline workers now? I don't assume they're receiving the same amount of pay as the CEO is per hour.
Yeah, and the hope is they can dedicate more of those labor hours to the programming, because at the present system model, the CEO has bared the brunt of the programming responsibilities, which has taken a large share of their time. So now it's felt that we can make the CEO an administrative supervisory role and and allow the library assistants to focus on the programming. That would allow for a more efficient system overall.
Okay, Councillor Dillabaugh wanted in.
Just, one more. The student page is how many, 2 in Spencerville and 2 in, or one in
There would
Spencerville,
be,
2?
so there is one currently in Cardinal that works on Saturdays.
Right,
And then there would be, we would hope to hire another student page in Spencerville,
okay. So you're gonna go 1 and 1,
1 and 1.
and a CEO and an assistant CEO?
And that all works in with the pay shift, it's all been factored in, so.
Right. Because that's what you're looking at, possibly.
Well, it would be our CEO, our branch supervisor, who would work out of the Cardinal branch, CEO would work out of the Cardinal branch, and then our 4 library assistants.
Okay. Okay, so I'm just gonna bring up one more thing while you're here and Mr. Robertson is here. I think what I'm going to say probably maybe has not been heard by the 4 new members of council sitting around the table here. But just so you know, and the 4 new members know, when the bank in Spencerville closed, we made a strong pitch to the vice president in charge of Eastern Ontario that we would like to have that building for a library for Spencerville to replace the building that we're currently in. Now, those discussions went on for about 2 months during the transition time while the bank closed. And then I had a couple of conversations with them in following months after that. And we agreed that we would give the bank an opportunity, 6, 9, 10, 12 months, to find a market for the bank in the commercial market, for the building in the commercial market. The signs still have not gone up, which to me is a good sign. They're trying to internalize the request that we presented to them. And so I just want to make you aware of the fact that you may hear something happening in that regard.
We will,
And we own the library buildings,
right?
so from a council point of view or from a township point of view, we would be trying to get control of that building at a nominal cost and disposing or divesting of the other building at roughly the same dollar value. So then you'd be responsible for the work of moving.
Well, we moved
What's
the other one.
$10,000? There's always that other shoe to drop.
Yeah.
But anyway, Mr. East, I want to thank you very much for your presentation.
Thanks for having me.
It's been a good discussion, and we wish the new board well, and appreciate Mr. Robertson's comments about the confidence that he's expressed in the board. So best wishes to you, and
Thank you.
in view of your ask, I don't see how we can I don't see how we can complain too heavily.
We're the only ones asking for the same amount as we
Same
got
amount,
last
yeah.
year, so. Great. Thanks very much for coming, Ken.
No problem. Okay, so now I'm going on to the next item on the agenda, which is item number 5, the action and information items for the 2019 budget. And so the first item is 5A, which is the draft budget summary overview. Now, I'm going to first of all make a few introductory remarks, just to provide a little bit of context. The first is that we've all seen the letter from, can't remember the source now, I'm going to try to find it here. I brought it with me. We've all seen the letter from the Minister of Finance regarding the Ontario Municipal Partnership Fund. And the Minister of Finance in this letter dated February the 13th is kind of telling us basically that the allocations to the municipalities will be the same in 2019, but we shouldn't expect that they will be the same in 2020. So I'm sort of regarding that as one item that's been resolved. The second item that I'll just draw to everyone's attention is that on Tuesday, the Committee of the Whole at County Council approved the County Council 2019 budget with a 0% tax increase. Now, I'm gonna say that in the original proposals, the county staff was looking for a 1% increase in the county tax rate. But the members at the table were heavily influenced by the fact that the counties was going to draw in 1-point-something million more in dollars to the treasury strictly as a result of phase-in and growth in assessment. And because of that actually tremendous increase in growth of dollars, the 10 mayors around the table were pretty adamant that they would not tolerate a 1% increase in the tax rate. Consequently, at the meeting before last, the table directed that the staff go back to the operational budgets and remove the 1%, which was done. That's what was presented on Tuesday, and as a result of that presentation, the budget was approved, and the budget bylaws will be coming forward at the county tax meeting on the 21st. So, here we are at our table, budget meeting number 5, draft budget summary overview, and who's going to present that? CAO?
I'll defer to the treasurer to review the overview.
So the summary itself is just a few changes in the operational side. As a result of, as I stated in my presentation, the addition of some sewer charges for both the town hall and for the Spencerville Arena in the amount of $3,000. And then as you're aware, our insurance premium for 2019 increased fairly drastically. In looking at our budget, we had already built in about just over $7,000 of an increase for the insurance, but I had to add an additional $10,000 of that $20,000. So $17,000 was partly township. Like I say, we already had built in a small increase, anticipating an increase, but not to the level that the insurance. So the only thing that's changed from in this summary compared to previous summaries is the operating budget, which is at $153,453.
Okay, so what I look at, of course, is in addition to the percentages that were referred to in the earlier presentation, I look at the actual dollar numbers, and I'm heavily influenced by the increases that we will see in dollar amounts in 2019. And I'm looking at page 5A of the package, the one that was circulated for tonight's meeting. And you know, I can see that our draft budget proposes dollar tax revenue of $5,581,000, which is some $638,000 over the actual from last year. Now I know that the second line, which is the supplementary taxation revenue, is decreased because we had only anticipated to receive about $200,000 from the supplementary taxation, but actually received $442,000. And the way I looked at it, and the way I conceive of that, is that that operating revenue budget basically received a $163,000 boost over the 2018 approved budget. And that $163,000 boost was basically used in operating expenses. So I think that there's been a very big boost in the operating budgets between what was budgeted in 2018, which as you can see from your sheet 5A, what was budgeted to be an operating expenses in 2018 of 5.796 million. There was actual expenditures of 5.959 million, so $163,000 boost there. So I look at it from the point of view that that's been the increase in the operating costs, although they were mostly expended in 2018. I think they've set the tone for 2019, and that seems to be what's reflected in the 2019 ask, unless I've got my numbers wrong here. So, I guess in summary, what I'm really saying is that all of the projections that we have in front of us are basically based on a 0% tax increase in 2019. And have I got that right? That's what the projections that we have in front of us show.
There's a shortfall of $339,235 in funding.
Well, no, but I'm just talking at this point about revenue. The revenue that we see in our sheet 5A.
Right, the revenue is showing at a 0% tax rate increase, but we
Okay.
are showing a funding deficit of $339.
Yes, yes, which is a different kettle of fish.
Right.
So, okay, so before I go on, I'd like to have some discussion. I know where other members of council are sitting here, where your heads are at. And I'm gonna open the table up for a little bit of discussion there. I have another couple of comments to make, but I won't make them until I hear from some other people.
Well, I'll start, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to see a 0% increase, to be quite truthful, for 2019. If the counties can do it, I don't see why we can't. Well, I guess I can see why we can't, but I would rather we didn't.
Okay, that's one man in. I guess if again,
Well,
I don't wanna go on here until I hear from some others, but I'm looking at my sheet number 5A here, a lot of other comments to make.
I'm gonna go comment on it. I am influenced, and I did say at the start of the negotiations, I'd like to see a 0% tax rate increase. I am influenced a little by our treasurer's lead in here that really, what is a 1.13% increase really is revenue neutral to our tax people. They really won't be paying any more than what they did last year. Also a little influence in our statement, but at a 0% tax rate, we basically 43% of our tax people are bearing the burden of the increases here through the assessment increase, and the ones at zero aren't picking up any of the cost too. So, but I don't want to see the taxes jump. I guess with enough argument, I could be persuaded that I might go from a 0 to a 1, but I can't see us really going to the 2. That starts costing us people money, but.
Can I debate you on your comment?
Yep.
Thank you very much. So, and strong arguments,
Yeah.
and I understand that. You know, over the overall scheme of things, the amount that we would be requesting is relatively small. So I can't argue with you on the dollar amounts that increase. But where I have my problem with that argument is that basically what the township is doing is the township is riding on the Ontario education tax decrease. That's what they're writing on. And I'll tell you why I'm really leaning towards the 0% tax increase. I would like council to sell the 0% tax increase as the taxpayer's dividend for the Giant Tiger development in their industrial park. This is what you're going to get out of it. You're going to get, for this year, no increase in your taxes. Now, that's not entirely true, because as per the treasurer's presentation, we know that the people that had an increase in their phase-in, the people on the orange side of the disc, on the third page, I think it is.
What page, what do you call it?
Yeah, this is on the treasurer's presentation.
What, page 3?
Yes, page 3. Those people on the orange side, they have phased in current value assessment. So even though we would be able to, if we were able of a mind to have a 0% increase in the tax rate, those 56.3% of the township taxpayers would still see an increase in their tax. So thank you very much for the opportunity to debate.
Can I answer back to you?
Absolutely.
We've, I've served, as you know, a number of times, same as you on council. And over the years, we've had 0% tax rate increase. Council we served on before had 0% tax increase. But it always seemed to come back to bite us in the end, that we ended up 2 or 3 years down the road, all of a sudden we had to have a 4% tax rate increase, or a 4.58 as was stated in your last council there. We had 2 0%, but we ended up having to pay it anyway. So as a budgetary thing for me in business, I'd sooner pay 1% every year going along instead of go 2 years at 0 and then have a 2 or 3 or 4% increase. So
Now, Councillor Hunter, why is it that you always have the stronger arguments?
I don't think I have a strong, I'm just stating the point here.
It's very simple, Mr. Mayor, pay me now or pay me later.
Councilor Hunter, you have a good point. I'm scared to death of this 0% because of that.
It shows in our graph here every time.
Oh, I
we
know,
did it.
that's right. I
And
know.
I'm guilty of it, because
No,
I
no, I
was on the
know.
council once, we did it for 2 years, 0, and we had to increase
The
it, so.
0 does scare me because of that.
Okay, other speakers. I'm losing here.
Well, yeah, I'm sorry, I am scared of that. Even with our, with the money that we get from the port, if we have a bad drought or too much rain, there goes our,
That's never happened.
oh, don't say that, so.
No,
I'm sorry, I can't buy the 0% myself because of that.
Remember, there's a lot of extra money coming in.
I know that. Yeah, Mayor.
In the same breath, there's a lot of capital items that are sitting there
Yeah, haven't been paid.
that the acting CEO would just love to get his hands on.
CAO.
CAO.
Deputy Mayor, you haven't swayed in here yet.
Yeah, you're gonna force me to. I'm a 0% guy. I understand the idea of, we talked about it for wastewater and water management, small increases. We made the debate as to why small increases in the end make sense. So if need be, I like Councillor Hunter has stated, I could see a small increase making sense. The treasurer's argument makes a lot of sense. I will say though, what we had 87 million new dollars on MPAC valuation
Yes.
go in. We're not gonna see that kind of growth this year, although we will retain that value going forward, but we're not gonna see that kind of an increase again. And seeing the fruit from that now, we're still talking about raising this a considerable amount above that. I don't know, that scares me a little bit. It's just growing that we're growing more than that 87 million afforded us this year, plus the increases of, in the phased-in CDA on top of that, so that does disturb me a little, especially reading all of our neighbors around us at very, very small incremental increases, counties at 0 and Rockville at less than 2%, and our neighbors around us all less than 2%, so.
And we're the ones with the big windfall.
And we're the ones with the windfall, they're the ones that have been in deficit, so.
I was listening to the forecast this morning, and they're talking about housing starts have declined in several other areas that aren't that rosy right now, so you never know what another year is gonna bring.
Well, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna park the concept of the 1% or 0% increase. I'm gonna park that for a minute and just go down to B and C and D here, which is a discussion of the fire rescue truck, the public works truck, and the excavator options. Let's have a discussion about each of those and see where our heads are, our collective heads are on each of those items, and see if that opens up any additional arguments one way or another. So the first one I'm gonna turn to is the fire rescue truck, which is 5B. And we do have a briefing note in front of us here. And the concept is that we would give pre-budget approval to tender for a new fire rescue truck. So let's start with discussion on that and see where that takes us. Anybody want to start here? Not hearing any discussion.
I'll go
Go
ahead,
ahead.
Mr. Mayor. On the 5B, are we, Chief Moore, are we gonna replace van 1 and truck 8, or we're gonna just do van 1 and combine the two and eliminate truck 8?
The document before you recommends removal of truck 8 from the budget for this year. And combining the equipment into one truck, yes.
Is that permanent? Or are we coming back next year and asking for the other truck?
Chief Moore?
Just a minute, no, hang on one second. You said removal of truck 8. Truck 8 exists. Truck 8 is.
From the capital budget.
Yeah, but truck 8 is, we already have it on the fleet.
If I may, through the chair, just to clarify, on the original submissions, there was a $55,000 unit, and the request for $125,000 for the chassis for the new rescue van. The recommendation out of here is that $55,000 truck be put off of the 2019 budget and focus on the tendering for a new rescue van that would combine van 1 and truck 8 into one unit.
I know, but the counselor's question was, if we tender for a new fire rescue truck at $300 and some thousand, are we replacing both truck 8 and van 1? That's what his question was. Are we replacing both of them? Are they both gonna go away?
If it was tendered and received, there would be 2 units that would be declared surplus, and you would have 1 unit.
Okay, and then Councillor Hunter came back and asked the question, Councillor?
Is that gonna be permanent, or is the next year we're gonna want the other truck again?
Are you gonna want, that's what I'm trying to get at too,
Yeah.
Chief Moore, are you gonna come back and want truck 8?
So if
Pickup.
I may, through
Yeah.
through the chair, I believe that the chief is looking at an overall model that looks at the number of vehicles and the types of vehicles in their use. So I'm not sure that it's at a stage yet to know whether it would be eventually the same number of vehicles that are currently in there, or if it would be one less. I think it's too early on at this stage.
Well, go ahead.
Where the chair, could I just maybe make a suggestion on this? And maybe get things moving?
Go ahead.
Myself, I would like to see us get something, a van 1, we had this discussion, Chief Moore, it's gonna last us 20 years, and it's gonna fit the fire department and Edwardsburg Cardinal what we need. My suggestion would be is we have 246,680 in the reserve now. I would like not to purchase van 1 this year. I would like to put 70,000 in the reserves to bump it up to 316,680, so that Chief Moore can get his officers and his committee together and to have everything ready for 2020 and go from there. We would have $316,680, and that means we would only have, you're saying 375, Chief Moore, roughly? Pretty close?
That is correct.
So we're only looking about another 70,000 for 2020. And we would have van 1.
No, we would have a replacement for van 1.
We would have a replacement for van 1 and 8.
Okay, and we would have a definitive answer on the vehicle that Councillor Hunter was referring to.
That's van 8.
You know, the replacement for van.
We wouldn't have a replacement for.
Right, we would get a definitive answer on that it wasn't to be replaced.
Can I?
Okay, you wanna jump in here?
Yeah, sure. What are we already scheduled to replace in 2020 though? I mean, if we're pushing this from 2019, is there a schedule of replacement for something else that needs to be, or that needs to be budgeted for in 2020?
I'll defer to the chief. Is there anything scheduled for replacement in 2020?
Fire-wise, we did not have any vehicle replacements in 2020.
There is no replacements in 2020.
Through the chair again, so 2021?
Yes, we had truck 8 scheduled to be replaced in 2020.
So this would be the solution for 1 and 8, a year earlier than what 8 was scheduled to go?
I still think there's a need for an additional vehicle at that station, but it does not need to be a specialized vehicle. I think we need a utility type vehicle, like a half-ton or 3/4 ton truck, just for moving bodies and equipment, but we do not need a second specialized equipment vehicle.
So what, I think what I'm hearing is that once this is done, there's no more ask till 2022 at least.
Correct.
Well, short of something for pickup truck.
So a new concept on the floor, which would take a lot of load off the capital for this year.
You've done some work, I like the idea.
Well, I kind of like the idea of more time to work this through. CAO.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Looking at it with respect to pre-budget approval for tendering the fire rescue vehicle, I would anticipate that there's a little bit more time in getting that tender ready for distribution. And by the time it's tendered and received back, it would come to council again And the expected delivery date would be into 2020. So you would know in advance by going through that process what that cost.
Well, and I don't think that those two ideas are incompatible. As a matter of fact, I think they're totally compatible. Because for the sake of the 2019 budget, we would flow the 70 into the reserve. The chief could continue to work on his change of model program, and towards September, October, put out his tenders for a new vehicle, get those tenders back in time for presentation at the 2020 budget discussions with a view to a pre-budget approval in 2020. I mean, I don't think the two ideas are incompatible here. As long as we recognize that what we're doing is setting up for a 2020 purchase. I think that's, and it could be early 2020. It'll be the same people around the table. They'll be familiar with the plan, and they'll be familiar with the reasons for the plan. And I think we'll have some time during the year to ask a number of questions around the plan.
Mr. Mayor, that, a unit like that, they wouldn't have sitting on the lot, so
Nope.
they require lead time to build it.
Yep.
And, like you say, I think the ducks would be all in a row for next year.
It's not as much, has a lot to do with the capital for sure, because it helps. It takes
Yeah.
us,
Oh,
it takes
yeah.
127,000 away this year off the
Yep.
capital, okay?
Yeah.
But it gives the chief and his officers and his committee to make sure they have everything that they want, and that it's gonna suit us for the next 20 years in this township, which means it's more medical and more motor vehicle accidents. So that's why I thought about this part, and I've talked to Chief Moore about that. You know, let's get ready and do it, even if it goes to 385,000. At least we have what we need for the next 20 years and what they need.
Okay, I need two more councillors to weigh in on this new concept that's on the table here.
I like the new concept. The problem that I'm trying to get over here is these vehicles look like they just came off the assembly line. But I can go with the new concept. They're nice looking vehicles.
Well, that speaks to the residual values. Do we know what the residual values are? Have we investigated the residual values on either of these two
So, I guess.
through the CEO, the chief?
Certainly.
No, we have not.
Okay, I think we'd have some time to do that as well.
Yeah.
Councillor Hunter?
I'm still hung up on the 375,000 for a truck, so. I think we need to, I agree with putting the money into the reserves and giving more time to work at it, but I really think there needs to be a lot more work done by his committee and stuff, coming up with exactly the requirements that they actually need to do the job, and what they'd like to have.
Same argument as Councillor Dillabaugh is making. And you need more time to be sold on the idea.
I need more time that a truck of that stature, I think somebody's making an awful lot of money building that truck for 375,000.
Yeah, that's life. I mean, we can't say that.
Okay, so have I heard from you on this? Yeah? So, if I recall, most of the comments have been kind of in favor of this new concept of 70,000 into the reserves and postponing the whole thing until 2020. Okay, so what I would like to have, because I do have a recommendation here in front of me, I'd like to have a motion put forward the committee recommend that, that council budget $70,000 transfer to the fire department vehicle reserve in 2018. So that committee recommends the council budget to transfer $70,000 to the fire department vehicle reserve fund in 2018. Looking for a mover. I have a mover with Councillor Cameron and a seconder by Deputy Mayor Deschamps. Those in favor? Okay, so that's carried. That gets us through the fire rescue truck. Now,
Sorry, Mr. Chair, just clarifying that, so once the committee has the information that they require, that the idea is not to tender in 2019?
well, there's a difference between putting a tender out and closing a tender. There's a process in there. And I think part of that process is design specifications, a clear concept of what's required. So you have to build a tender document, putting the tender out with a closing date in December or November with a 30-day or a 60-day hold on the price would get us into a January tender let. In other words, we could get the tender out, we could get the tender back, we would have, and we can write the tender in such a way that the price that's tendered is held for 60 days, which reaches us over into January.
So, through the chair, I think the concern is that if you're looking at awarding in 2020, you're looking at delivery in 2021.
Well, that might be part of the
I think-
tender.
I think that part of it is it can be ready for tender in the fall, and
Let's-
tendered in the fall.
Let's wait and get that idea clarified.
Can you tender on the premise that they're gonna deliver it in January 2020? Or is that?
The tender could possibly be written that way, yeah, tender for delivery in January.
And that, as you say, it just saves waiting a whole year for it. Ordering it in January 20 and then have to wait till 21.
But picking up on that, I think the other concept that's on this table here right now is that council needs a higher comfort level that this is the vehicle that we need for the purpose that's evolving.
So there's a lot of research involved before we get to that.
Well, and I think there's a lot of work with council that has to be
Yeah.
done. Councillor Hunter.
I agree with you on that, and I think before any tender goes out, I wouldn't be comfortable approving it until I seen the tender copy on the desk before us, that we get to review it before.
The specs, in other words.
Yeah, what's
The tender specs.
being asked for.
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean by the work to be done. Okay, so I think that's the clarification that you need. So I'm moving on then to this Public Works truck number 1, which is a pickup truck. As I understand it, it's the pickup truck that's operated by the superintendent, is that correct?
Through the chair, that is correct.
So this is our major patrol vehicle.
That is correct.
Okay, estimated cost?
Estimated cost, we have 30,000 estimated cost for replacement.
Okay, just give me a second, I gotta get this document in front of me. This is 5C. Okay, so, let me have a look at the recommendation. The committee recommends that council authorize staff to request quotations on the purchase of a half-ton 4x4 pickup truck with a 42-month financing term, 0% interest, using the 14,000 from reserves to offset payments in 2019-2020. All right, now, as I've already explained to the CAO, I have some problems with the recommendation, but I'll let others speak first, and then I'll indicate my reservations. Anybody want to get in here for a speaker?
By the look of it, it'd be about a $34,000.
It's through the chair, my apologies, I shortchanged.
Okay.
Any other comments here?
Sure. Am I wrong in thinking at budget meeting 4 that we, that the concept that we came up with would get it out of capital and put it into operational?
That's correct, yes.
And this is leaving it in capital, is it not?
Yes, it is, because it's reserve, it's drawing from reserves. It's drawing from reserves, as I explained to the CAO, that's the problem that I have too. I have no problem with the truck, but the way I would prefer to finance this vehicle is a straight bank loan. Straight up bank loan, and then it appears on the sheets that we get on a regular basis from the treasurer, and it will appear on our sheet, and the staff is recommending 42 months. I don't have any problem stretching that to 48, which is 4 years, but I'd like to see it on this sheet, and the concept here is that in the recommendation is that there'd be 14,000 taken from the reserves to offset the payments in 2019 and 2020. So you'd be dribbling money out of the reserves each month to make payments in 2019 and then make payments in 2020. And then presumably, if the payments were $2,000 a month, or let's say they were $1,000 a month, in 14 months, you draw that reserve down to 0, and then you'd be, which is capital basically. So that's my problem. Looking for other speakers here.
I agree with both of you. I thought we already had that discussion, that we're gonna purchase it, take it out of capital, our last budget meeting, and put it in operation. No?
So through the chair, let me speak to it a little bit. Yes, so what the concept is that you would transfer from reserves the 4860 over to.
The what?
The 4860 in 2019, you would transfer that out from reserves, which there was 14,000 placed in reserves for the replacement of that vehicle. So you would take out 4860 in 2019 operating budget as a transfer from reserves, and then you would add a finance payment in the operating budget of 4860 for a net 0 as an additional to the operating, and a net 0 to capital.
Just a minute, hang on one second here. You're gonna take 14, run that by me again, because I don't understand. Where are you looking here?
14,000 in reserve.
I'm looking at table 1.
Table 1.
So we're projecting the annual payments to be $4,860
On 42 months?
for 6 months in 2019.
Oh, yes, and so that'll be a 6 months of 2019, and then
Correct.
9,720 in payments.
It's 12 months in 2020, and the same for 2021.
Okay, but, so what you're saying is that the entire payments for 2019 would come out of the 14?
Correct.
Which is $810 a month.
Yes, that is correct. Monthly payment.
$810 a month doesn't seem like very much.
Seems like a lot, I think.
$810 a month for a truck. Yes.
I don't know.
So that was the plan, to take that 14,000 out of the reserve for like a down payment, pretty much. Like, you're gonna put the 48,
No, so instead of taking the entire 14,000 out of reserves that was dedicated
for that truck.
for the purchase of that truck.
Yeah,
Right. We will only take 4860
right?
out of reserves in 2019, which will cover the payments in 2019.
Right.
And then in 2020, the remainder of that 14,000 that was dedicated would be taken out in 2020 to offset those payments.
And see, to me, I would never handle my personal finances that way. If I was gonna take the 14,000 out of the reserves, I would take it out of the reserves, apply it to the capital right away, and reduce my borrowing amount by 14,000. So it was a $34,000 truck, and I took 14 out of the reserves right away. Now I'm only financing 20, and if I finance the 20 over the same 42 months, the payments are relative, a lot less than 810. They come way down. I'm not paying, right, I'm not paying interest. Why am I paying interest on money that I'm gonna draw down anyway?
The percentage rate.
0%.
If I may through the chair,
It's
the
0%.
whole, the concept is that it's zero, so.
We're 0% loan through the manufacturer?
Correct.
Are they still available these days? Yeah.
Oh, big time.
Well,
Well,
I just don't,
If I may through the chair, very similar to what we did with the environmental services truck last year.
okay,
Was 42 months spread over so that it was a minimal impact
yeah,
on the
on the operating account.
Exactly.
Well, this is even less, because there's no impact on the operating account, and I think it should be. Councilor Hunter?
I agree, I think it should be coming out of operating, and the 14,000 we had dedicated to this truck. I'd sooner see that 14,000 moved over and drew out and put against the plow truck that we've already approved to buy. That 14,000 less we had for it, we're drawing out of capital for it anyway. I just soon have that other 14 put towards it and pay this all out of operating, so,
Okay, so in other words, a straight loan
yeah,
through the dealer,
yeah.
dealer financing?
Well, we get fleet, probably get 0% anyway, so.
Yeah, sure, if I may.
Yeah.
And if they're giving 0%, if it's their money that we're actually using, why would we shorten the term to 42 months?
Life expectancy of the truck on there
I
too.
think
you know.
they say that it's 7 years, so.
Yeah.
So if I may through the chair, typically within our policy, we can't extend over 50% of the life of the asset. So 42 months is 50%.
Okay.
Have we ever had a supervisor's truck last 7 years though?
This one.
The one we could.
This one's an 11.
This is a 2011, so we've
There's your answer.
we've reached the limit.
I must have babied that one, because most of them never did it.
So, excuse me, through the chair, so what you're saying is go and borrow to pay for it, and take this 14,000 and put it towards our plow?
Yeah.
I like that.
This has
Sorry.
this has no interest on
No,
it, so
it's
unless
zero
we're gonna get a
interest.
better price for putting $14,000 down, or putting money down on it, then why would you put any money down on it?
Well, that's what I'm saying, we're not putting any money down on it. Why can't we just go
And take that and use it for something else?
and take whatever the 42 months and whatever the vehicle's worth, you're saying 34,000? And divide it into 42, what's our monthly payments?
Well, if you look at table 2, the alternative.
Yes?
So basically, you would add 4860 for the 6 months in 2019. So that would be an additional expense into your operating that doesn't have a revenue offset.
Well, that's a different kettle of fish. We're talking $4,000 we're talking $4,000 on a budget of 1.6 million, so, 1.692 million actually. Okay, so I gotta see where I am with this. I guess one of the things that I'm not hearing, and that I insist on hearing, is our method of procurement here. And it's a request for quotations. And I've been burned badly by those RFQs. And I don't intend to be burnt on this one. So, what is the proposed method of procurement here?
Through the chair, we would be sending out, requesting for quotes to the manufacturers
Well,
with,
would they not be tendering to a spec document?
there will be a document included.
Okay, but I would like to know that it's going to be a tender, a closed tender with a public opening, and that all of the tender specifications are clearly laid out, including the specifications for the vehicle and the specifications for the financing package. So I want to know that that's part of what we're talking about here.
So through the chair, typically on the procurement policy, it requires 3 quotes for values between
I'm
20
talking
and 50.
quotes.
So, but if it's the will of council that the pickup truck be a full tender,
So what do the others feel here?
We were here when we sitting here when we got this last one, we got burned bad on it from dealers that weren't requested to quote on it, so I think it should be circulated to all the dealers regardless, make, model, or whatever, the tender be circulated, whether it's a Toyota or a Dodge or a Ford or a Chevy or whatever it is, if it meets the tender specs, and that's what we get.
Will the RFQ go, do we send that, this is my own ignorance, do we send that out to individual dealers? Do we send it to manufacturers, or do we advertise it on our website, in a newspaper? How do we actually?
Well, first of all, it's not an RFQ, it's not a request for quotations. It's a full tender package with a tender form in it.
Sure.
And they fill out the form, everybody fills out the same form. The tender packages are prepared in multiple copies. They can be hand-delivered to all of the dealers within 100 kilometers, I don't care. But they should also, the tender package should also be available on the counter in the municipal office, and it should be advertised that those tender packages are on the counter in the municipal office.
So we don't actually, sorry.
Yeah.
So we don't put it, because, I mean, I was perusing Prescott's, you know, they have everything accessible right on their website. You can click it, you can see everything that's available for tender. Brockville has all of theirs available right down to their paving contracts, all that sort of stuff. So, not just on their counter, but actually on their website for
Yeah.
anyone to
Well,
actually access and
yeah,
to see.
yeah.
So my question is it available?
Well, I would assume that it would be there too. On our website, the tender, the fact that the tender package was available.
Through the chair, how did we get ripped?
Well, let's not go there,
Well, I just like,
it's a long story.
well, okay, so at the tender, what did you call it?
No, it's a tender to a tender document, not a request for quotations.
Okay, so we're not requesting a quotation.
We're sending out a tender document.
So we're going to Myers is in Kempville, Riverside, Gananoque for a Chevy. Is that right? Okay, we're doing the same thing with Ford and Dodge.
Yeah, and we want, and the specifications clearly spelled out in the tender document.
Right, what size of motor, 4x4, the whole thing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And the financing package.
Finance.
Yes.
Okay, so I think I'm reading consensus around this concept, am I not? Okay, all right, I'm not gonna ask for a motion, because I think the concept is a little bit too elaborate to try to wordsmith it here at the table. So I'm going to hope that the recording has picked up on the various points that we expect to see here. And I'm just gonna reiterate some of them. It's a tender package with all of the specifications clearly spelled out as to the vehicle specifications and the financing package. It's to be financed, assuming that the dealer has 0% interest, is to be financed over no more than 48, 42 months. And as I read the discussion, there's no down payment, we just commence payments. That's the way I read the discussion. Now, I don't know whether such a financing package is available without a down payment. Can somebody enlighten me on that? I've never heard of it, but maybe it happens.
Through the chair, as I've indicated before, with the environmental services truck last year, there was no down payment, and we're on 0% financing for 42 months.
I think,
All right.
Mayor, I think most of these ones that we're, Waterworks or any of them that we're doing this is done through a fleet
Yeah.
plan right through the corporations.
Yeah.
And that's where the 0% comes from when they're dealing fleet. So.
Yeah. The local dealer just sends it up the chain.
So then the used vehicles just gets, you sell that tendered and sell it out. You know what I mean?
By auction, don't we?
Typically, they're declared as surplus, and
Yeah.
there's methods for disposal.
Okay, all right, so that deals with 5B, 5C rather. And now we're down to 5D, which is the excavator. What to do with the excavator?
Oh dear.
So now again, we have a briefing note in front of us with a recommendation. Committee recommends that council exercise the option to purchase the 2012 Volvo excavator and use reserves to cover the final buyout cost, which if I recall correctly is $99,000. Should be in the recommendation, but it's not. Declare the unit as surplus and dispose in the best interest of the township, and repay the reserve through the sale of the unit and use the excess amount toward a new leased unit. So, need some speakers to this.
When we refer to the accumulated hours to date of 20848, is that from day one? Or is that from when we took possession?
That is from when we took possession.
Okay, so we've, in 3 years, is it? We've had it 4 years?
Through the chair, I want to say about 3.5, or a little over.
Yeah,
3.5.
we got it in 15, so, okay. Now, you've got a note here that says this unit is equipped with available plumbing for brushing attachment. Are, in the big scheme of things, are we suggesting that we utilize that for doing our brushing?
Through the chair, I would certainly think that that's a very good option.
And do we have a cost of that to install that equipment? Ballpark?
I believe that the brushing head attachment was around 35,000, if I'm not mistaken.
But again, if that's a viable option, why weren't we using it with the existing equipment?
Through the chair, it has been on the capital budget for a couple of years now, not as what we typically consider mandatory, but as a P1 or a recommended.
The attachment?
The attachment.
Oh, I see, okay. It's a $35,000, right?
It's a $35,000.
Now, we're talking here about buying it out and paying $99,000, if my memory serves me correct. But what if we don't buy it? What happens if we just, when the end of the lease rolls around, we just say, okay, the lease is up? Is there is there money we have to pay? Or do they just come and take the vehicle?
So through the chair, if we decide not to enact the purchase option, I believe it's between 35 and 45 days before the lease is up that they will come and inspect the unit and assess that, and if there's any damages, et cetera, that are required, then it would be something that we would be on the hook for.
Okay, because what I'm looking at here is, you know, if we contracted that out at $175 an hour, and I understand, I think that includes the operator, that's $52,000. Like, we can do that for pretty much 2 years. Boy, now, if we paid the $99,000, took the vehicle, then the recommendation here is to lease a new unit. And
Well, first of all, to sell this one.
we have, that is correct. But again, my question is, what's a new leased unit gonna cost us? And I guess that depends on equipment and model and make and that kind of stuff, doesn't it?
So through the chair, the ideal concept would be to purchase it, put for resale, which I've indicated, we have had two rough estimates, what we would get on a sale, which range between $125,000 and $150,000. The idea would be that you would repay the reserves taken in to purchase that, and then use that $50,000 or $60,000 to bring down those payments, similar to what we've been paying currently over the last 3 years, which I believe is around $38,000, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, you've answered two of my questions, because I was wondering if we were gonna make money on the resale, that was going to be one of my questions. But I'm still, you know, the number of hours that we use this unit is quite low, to be quite truthful. We use it for 3 seasons, sits all winter unless something pops out, but, you know, it's either 300, just depending on when we got it, was either 300 hours a year or 512 hours a year, so that's not a lot of use, to be quite truthful.
So if I may through the chair, just so you know, the comparison table is based on the 2018,
Yes.
which is, was 715 hours of use.
715 hours of use?
Correct.
Okay, well, and I wasn't sure whether that was accumulated from day one or from when we took it over, so,
You're saying how many hours a year, at 715
yeah.
for the year?
Yeah, that's still not a lot of hours.
Is it grand?
Through the chair, 715 hours in 2018.
In
In
2018?
2018.
But really, if we look over, we're running roughly 680 hours since we've owned it.
680 hours per year?
Yes, since we owned it. I mean, we might have went over at 715 this year. We might have worked it harder than 215, but I think on an average since we owned it, 683 hours per year. I could be wrong on that. Am I?
Through the chair, if you go 2048 and divide by 3.5 years.
But can I just make the point, this briefing note is full of holes here. There's a lot of information that council needs that isn't here. For example, the usage, the annual usage. I mean, we've owned the thing since September 2015, so theoretically what we should have in front of us is the hours used in 15, the hours used in 16, the hours used in 17, the hours used in 18. We should have that in front of us. The other thing that we should have in front of us, when the third part of the recommendation is to declare the unit surplus and dispose, we should have something in front of us, in writing, tells us what our estimated residual value is, based on something. And that's missing here.
So with all due respect to the chair, I had indicated 125 and 150. I do apologize for not having the quotes attached.
Do you have them?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
That was the resale.
That is the reason.
Yes, thank you.
Correct.
Councillor Hunter, you haven't said anything.
I said in the last budget meeting, buy it and keep running it. No point in getting rid of something that's in good a shape as that for $99,000, because you're not gonna get the next one for what you're getting on that. That we're paying on this, I can guarantee you that. Priceline in the last 4 years has jumped considerably.
Can you tell us what your idea would be towards buying it? Because there's $99,000 due.
We have the money in reserves there, take the money out of the reserves and buy it and make full use of it. I don't know why when we leased it in the first place, we didn't lease it with the brush head on it when it was already plumbed for it, because that's big bucks. As far as the hours go, it's the type of equipment, the same as farming equipment. You need it when you need it, and these rubber tired hose aren't available around the country just on the spur of the moment to call and think you're going to get one that you need a culvert replaced or you need a water dam broke. You don't get them just on the spur of the moment, so.
How changeable is the head from the brush head to the bucket?
20 minutes,
Oh, is that quick?
just a couple of hydraulic attachments.
So Councillor Dillabon, then I want to hear from Deputy Mayor Deschamps, and then I want to hear from Mr. Robertson, who's sitting quietly.
I don't know very much about equipment, so I'm not a big help with that.
Councillor Dillabon.
Yes, why do we have to take it out of the reserves? I agree 100%. Why not keep it? Why not go to Volvo? Is that who we finance it through? We pay them $3,166 a month, right? Is it Volvo?
Yes.
Whatever. Why can't we go to them and extend our lease and continue to pay the $3,166 until it's paid off?
And the lease package has a maintenance component to it.
Yeah. Like, that's what I would do, get it extended, and even if we have to get an extended maintenance package, get an extended maintenance package, but continue to pay our $31.66, which is our operating expense, and not even look at the reserves. And another thing is, I don't understand where you get repairs $20,000 next year and $25,000 in 2021. Holy sheepers, creepers. Can you help me out on that, Mr. Grant?
That's it.
Like,
Certainly,
that's a lot of.
certainly again, through the chair. I think that there are probably a couple of councillors on at the time where we had the old excavator on the Daewoo. And, yes, we can certainly know that costs can mount relatively quickly. So there is typically not an inexpensive repair if something breaks down on one of those units.
But like 20 grand in 1 year? Like next year we're gonna pay $20,000 in repairs?
Through the chair, it's an estimate. I certainly cannot predict in 2020 what's going to break down on that particular unit.
Can we extend that maintenance package to cover that 20,000?
So through this lease to buy program that we entered into at the time, it's a buyout at the end or return it. There does not appear to be any option to extend the lease for, continue the lease payments for another, 2 or 3 years to pay off that $99,000.
Have we asked though?
I'm quite confident in my discussions with Strongco, who entered into that that's not an option.
You want in here?
Chair, I don't really think when you come up with these estimates, $20,000, that's kind of compared apple to oranges. You had a Daewoo that was an obsolete piece of equipment when you bought it in the first place. It was pretty well wore
It was a lemon,
That the parts are
yeah.
way dearer than they are for Volvo anyway, because you have a hard time part sourcing them to even get them. So I think that's a drastically overestimate, because I know we do work on hose all the time, my son does, and they're for different farms that are abused, way more abuse than they ever see on our township, and their repair bills on some of them's $10,000 a year, and that's putting new tracks and stuff on them, and this one just has wheels on it, so I think that's a drastically overestimated repair bill, so.
So through the chair, if I may, so with the maintenance contract in place currently, the average repair costs a year are $10,000, so I tend to disagree with 20,000 being way over inflation.
We have a maintenance contract, you said.
That's $6,516 a year.
That's correct. However, the maintenance contract does not cover wearable items, so wipers, tires, anything of that nature.
Deputy Mayor Deschamps hasn't been in here yet.
Yeah, so agreeing back that I think that it's prudent that we know how many hours it is to make an informed decision, so how many hours it's actually being used. And going back to something that Councillor Cameron somewhat touched on, I think he was headed towards, when he said $175 an hour to contract that out. And have somebody else provide the service, knowing what the hours are that we've used it per year would be useful when comparing it back to that $175 per hour, and then comparing that total number towards what our costs are per the unit that we're talking about, especially if we could know what that unit actually costs us to operate per hour. So not only do we have a lease fee for it, but we have an operator, we have fuel costs, we do have other costs associated with that machine per hour that would actually reduce the cost of a contractual number as well. So we're gonna compare these numbers, it'd be nice to have the information that we needed, so.
So through the chair,
That's all.
I believe that each option, financial breakdowns, on the final page of the chart, gives you an hourly rate cost of the particular unit in 2018. So it was $100.10.
But that's without a, excuse me, you know, through the chair, that's without an operator, or is that with operator?
That is our total cost.
Okay,
Got labor cost in there.
Correct.
okay.
So option 3 at $126.50 is the hourly rental rate of the unit, and then you still have the operator cost above that.
Yes, but when I said 175, which is over on page 2 of 3,
Correct.
It says plus operator at 126, and then contracted hourly rate for bushing was 175. I'm assuming that had the operator.
Correct. The 175 with the brushing and attachment was 175 an hour of what we're paying.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. Okay.
So, we know the hours then, if we've been able to figure out an hourly rate cost, we know the actual amount of hours that have been used for those years, and we're anticipating what those hours will be for the next ones if we're figuring out the hourly cost.
Correct. So in 2019, the 700, the unit logged 715 hours, and that was our total cost for 2018. That includes labor, fuel, repairs, maintenance and repair contract.
How many hours again?
715.
That was last year.
That's 2018, correct. So, it's difficult to pinpoint the exact number of hours that it would use each year, because that's very dependent on whether you want that unit to be used to replace cross culverts as part of your capital project, and a number of activities that may need to be done. So, having the unit available, as Councilor Hunter had indicated, that those units are not readily available, so when something comes up, your wait time or delay time may be many hours, where nothing can be done while you're waiting for that particular unit. So there's definitely a strong advantage to having that contained within the fleet.
Okay, so we better.
I will give you that one. I do agree in that term. However, on the other hand, I'm sure there's contractors out there that rent these that perhaps could guarantee us so much lead time. We might have to wait a day or 2 days.
Yeah, but in the case of a sewer break.
Yes,
you know,
yeah, I know. I understand
I
that.
don't think you're gonna get any contractors going to guarantee you a rental of them, because they're gonna rent them out.
Yes,
As they go, they're not gonna say, okay, we're gonna guarantee you
You're gonna
10
rent it
hours a
over
week
such
of
a-
rental time for that machine. If it's on a job, and it happens to be a union job that when it went in,
Yeah.
they're not working for $175 an hour, they're working for about $350 an hour.
I
And
agree.
they're not gonna pull out and come work for the township, so.
Okay, so what I'm gonna do, everybody's had a chance to talk. Let's just put the recommendations in front of us, all of us, so that we're looking at the same four lines. And what I'm gonna do, I'm going to go from bottom up, because the concept that I'm hearing gaining some favor around the table is to find a way to buy out the lease and continue to operate it, which is a new concept that's not ensconced in these recommendations. So I'm gonna look at recommendation number 4, which is to repay the reserves through the sale of the unit and use the excess toward a new leased unit. Now, there's two concepts there: sale of the unit and a purchase and a new lease. I want some comment on sale of the unit and new lease. You'd be comfortable removing 4?
Yeah. I do have another question back to the previous discussion though, but.
Okay, go ahead.
So we know that unit gets used, last year got used 715 hours. So based on a 50-week, 52-week, it'd be, 2,080 hours or something like that it would be available. So it's being used about a third, a little more than a third of the time. So it sits idle that 60% of the time, basically.
That's correct.
Have we ever looked at using it as a source of income? John says that we can't get one on short notice. Have we ever looked at actually contracting it out to some of our neighbors that don't have the service to use it as a source of income for the 60% of the time it's not being used?
So through the chair, at our current staffing levels, it would be difficult to dedicate one staff member just to that unit.
Yes, what,
So,
I guess embedded in that concept is the idea that you wouldn't put a township piece of equipment out without the operator?
to another township or to
To anybody.
a private enterprise or to anyone?
So through the chair, my recommendation is that you don't hand that out to anybody without our staff.
I would agree.
But the concept is still interesting,
I
because you got 60% idle hours there.
I think of something that would be like, to me, like this year, something that's gonna be used heavily in a lot of townships is a street sweeping service. That's gonna be cleaned up, but the rest of the year, the street sweepers really don't do a whole lot of work. So the townships can own them, they own a piece that sits 60% of the time not being used. Places like us that actually maybe don't have them, you know, can contract out to them and ask them to come in and do it. So it seems logical to me, if we have a piece of equipment that's in demand that is not being used 60% of the time, if there is that demand out there for it, that maybe we can find a way to make it useful at least 30% of that 60% of the time. There has to be a way. Makes sense.
Good concept. Counselor Hunter.
I think the argument always was over the years where graders and everything else, that we're a township corporation working with township tax dollars, we're not in the business of taking money away from businessmen within our township working on subsidized equipment.
That's always been the argument.
Well, I agree with that argument. I think we're also talking about all of our township taxpayer dollars and using them for their best interests, so fair enough, point taken, but you're right.
You lease it out to, one of our companies, for example, Tackleberry has two of them, he needs a third one, you lease him one to do work, and people saying, well, there's the township out leasing it, and there's Tackleberry making $200 an hour off our grader out there working, so.
I know when you lease out township equipment,
Yeah, sure.
even if it's only as a big favor to somebody, the phone starts ringing almost immediately. Okay, so, I'm back to item 4 here. Two concepts, sale of the unit and lease a new one. And I have one, speaker that would drop that part of the recommendation. Anybody else want to drop that part of the recommendation?
I would be in favor of dropping that part of the number 4 of the recommendation, providing that we buy it out and keep it, run it here.
Okay, so that's where I'm getting to.
Okay, that's where you're
Okay.
going, so drop 3 and 4, I guess.
Okay, drop 3 and 4. Am I getting nods around the table to drop 3 and 4? That gets us back to 1 and 2. Exercise the option to purchase the 2012 Volvo excavator and use the reserves to cover the final buyout cost, $99,000. And which reserve would be the applicable reserve, if you don't mind me asking, to the treasurer?
Well, Public Works is the only reserve that would be applicable.
Okay, so that's the, I believe, going into 2019, it's estimated to have about $462,000, is that correct?
Without that in front of me, I don't want to confirm that as a number, but it's in around the 400,000 range, yeah.
Okay, so it looks as though, if I'm looking in the right place on the right sheet, that's what I show as the balance of that Public Works reserve, or the estimate as to where that Public Works reserve would be. Yes, so around 460,000 is what it is projected to be at as of December 31st past. Okay, so any further discussion here? Concept on the table.
The only discussion, we went through such a problem with that day with, I'm still.
Get that out of your
I
head.
think I'm still shaking over that one.
I think Councilor Hunter's right. Let's get that one out of our mind.
The CAO seems to be chomping at the bit to.
Oh, sorry.
To offer something, so I think I'd like to hear what he has to say.
Thank you. If you let me speak on a couple of points, just as the deputy mayor spoke to about the downtime. The good example with the sweeper, very similar to the Hi-Ho. You remember that there's a November to March timeframe where a sweeper is not applicable. It's going, all sweepers are really out of service for that timeframe. Very similar to the excavator for the most part. From November to March, they're out of service. So when we're talking about 715 hours of operation, for instance, in 2018, that's almost like 40 hours a week through May, June, July, August, September. Those type, so during those months where the work is there, it's getting used.
Okay, that's your point that you're making.
That's my point.
Yeah.
And if you'll indulge me with my second point, and I don't want to keep going back to Daewoo, but one of the reasons why the proposal was for a new leased unit is you have that extra warranty with it. Yes, the Volvo unit at this stage, it has been operating good, it's been very good, but as 2 or 3 years from now, if we're starting to have problems, you're not going to have that resale value. I think the resale value is now, not 3 to 5 years from now. Because I think what I'm hearing from council around the table is that having that unit in-house with that flexibility and capability of expansion is, expanding the services is good, so.
Yeah, but I'm gonna just respond and then you can jump
Sure.
in, if you don't mind. And you know what, I'm heavily influenced by that argument, except for this. If I was going to lease a new unit, I would see it done this way. When the time is up on this one, it goes back to the dealer. We're not paying the 99 and exposing ourselves to the market to get residual value. He gets it back, we get a new one, straight up clean. Because what I don't want to happen, I don't want us to cash flow the 99 out, get a new leased unit in, and then be stuck for an unknown period of time until we get value out of the one that's sitting in the yard doing nothing. So if the recommendation had come to me in that form for a new lease, I might have jumped at it, but it didn't. I just don't want to hold this piece of equipment after I spent, if I'm going to hold it after I spent 99 on it, I'm going to work it. Now you can say we'll work it until it sells, but you can't do that. You can't work a piece of equipment and have it for sale at the same time, because it has to have exposure in the marketplace. And the only way it gets exposure in the marketplace is if it's sitting someplace available for sale. You know, that's the problem, the reality of it. So, work with me here. Tell me.
So, Mr. Mayor, what I'd like to say to your comment about getting a new one on a lease, and then when the lease is up, they get it back. There's always going to be charges when we send it back. There's going to be wear and tear, there's going to be damage, there's going to be maybe a total new paint job, whatever it might be. There's always going to be something that the dealer will charge us for when we take it back. And it could be $30,000, it could be $40,000.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Okay?
Could very well chew up the value of the residual.
That's correct.
Sorry, I said Deputy Mayor would be getting.
No, it's okay,
would get in after
I'm
me.
enjoying listening. Am I thinking that you're making the suggestion that by keeping this one and losing the value out of it, the difference is going to be offset, or we're actually gonna be at an advantage to have a new one? Basically, it's gonna end up being year per year the same amount of money, and we're going to have a new one that's covered by warranty? Is that, that's sort of what you were suggesting?
So through the chair, that is the concept. The unit's gonna come due in September, which is near the end of the season. And it would be, we would look at, hopefully in the later fall, having that, having that unit sold, and then that residual towards the lease, which we would start sometime in 2020. But we wouldn't want to have a unit there in January. We would hope to have a unit there in April, where it's not sitting all winter, and ready to start that that season over. That's the concept, and that's the idea of trying to get the value out of it now. That was the idea behind the recommendation.
Okay, I'm gonna throw in a different, another dimension to the argument, and I'm gonna ask Councillor Hunter with his experience. If the dealer knew that we were leasing a new unit, we were interested in leasing a new unit, would he be less inclined to charge us a whole bunch of upgrade costs and just eat them as a matter of goodwill?
I doubt it, because he's gonna want that thing ready to go
To market,
market.
and he's gonna want us to pay for that.
Richie Boggers are gonna auction that thing off the next day or two, and he's gonna have her painted up and looking just like a new one on there, so.
Yeah,
They're
so-
leasing them every day, they don't really care if somebody,
That's
like
one
us,
of
that leases one every 5 years or 4 years, we lease it from there. Thomason's leasing 25 of them every 6 months
Yeah,
from them, so,
yeah, we're a small player.
yeah.
it's,
You want in here, Tom?
No. I really don't know enough about machinery to, and it's interesting, some of the things that I'm learning though.
Through the chair, I can see where they're coming from a lease. When we don't have mechanics on staff and stuff. Yes, we have a service contract and they come and they fix it all the time there. But, we do have garages and heavy equipment places near us that do service equipment, and, $6,500 maintenance repair contract. That's just doing the labor basically. We're paying for the oil, we're paying for the grease, we're paying everything else. Anything that they put on that thing you're paying, nobody's doing maintenance agreements that they're not taking them, they're gonna make money off them.
absolutely.
That's what it's there for, is to make money, so that's when we figure up that it's $10,000 a year. I don't think it was $10,000 a year if we'd been doing our own maintenance on oil changes and stuff. I'm sure our shop guys can change the oil and grease equipment and stuff there that we're not paying. I think our operating costs are down, and I think a machine with that, that we got there, 2,048 hours. Piece of equipment, that thing, that's not even considered broke in.
Mr. Mayor?
In other words, keep it.
I don't see the point of getting rid of it. I think there's, the hours we're running, there should be at least 4 more years of very low maintenance on that, and then if they wanna put it for auction and sell it then, but take another one for 4-year lease and go through and do the same thing, I think we're money ahead, so.
Well, one thing is for sure, if you got 4 years, if we paid it out at 99,000, and we got 4 years out of it, our cost would be 25,000 a year.
Less than what we're paying lease.
If you have no break loss.
Yeah, well, I mean,
That's
that's still here.
Still now, and even if you add the 20 on, you're still.
Yeah, you're still good.
At the same
Yeah,
money.
May I just jump in here? If we were to lease another vehicle, would it be a new vehicle or one like this when we get it, it would have some years on it?
Through the chair, I would certainly be thinking that we'd be looking at probably like a 2018 unit, 2019. And it would be the time at this stage that to look heavily at the brushing unit attachment with that all encompassing into those payments.
Thank you.
Okay.
Where I was going with that, it's always a new vehicle or a newer vehicle, let's put it that way, will probably give us 2-3 years pretty much maintenance free as far as serious problems, unless of course it has the name Daewoo, but it doesn't. So there's always that side of it too, but I'll tell you, Mr. Mayor, I'm still leaning towards buying it and keeping it and using it. But can we do that?
Of course we can.
Yes, we can, okay.
Okay, so, I'm gonna go once quick around the table, just to see if we can get to a consensus here. And the recommendation that is left in front of me is exercise the option to purchase the excavator, use the reserves to cover the final buyout cost, and by implication, continue to operate it. That's the way I'm reading where I'm at. Yes or no?
Me, yes, that's how I would
Yes
go.
there?
Yes.
Yes there?
Yeah.
Yes there, yes there?
Yeah.
Yes there. Okay, so I'm gonna call the question on the motion, and I'm gonna add, the recommendation's gonna read as follows. The committee recommends that council, 1, exercise the option to purchase the 2012 Volvo excavator and use the reserves to cover the final buyout cost of $99,000 and continue to operate on the fleet, to operate the unit on the fleet. Operate the unit,
Within the fleet.
yeah, within the fleet. That's the recommendation that's now on the table. Any additional speakers before I call the question? Hearing none. Those in favor? Motion is carried. All right, so that takes those 3 units off the table, those 3 issues off the table. Now, I park the issue of the 1% or the 0% tax increase on hold, but those 3 issues now being settled gives the treasurer an opportunity to go back and rework a few things. So I'm gonna leave that issue. Oh, I'm not? I thought I was.
Just moving it to.
You got 2 people? Oh, I got a mover, and I didn't ask for a mover and a seconder? Oh, I'm really slipping here. All right, do I have a mover for the recommendation?
Yes, you do.
Okay, I'm gonna take Deputy Mayor Deschamps and Councillor Hunter. Gee, that was bad. Those in favor? I called the question without a motion, without a mover and a seconder. Okay?
That's what I recommend, Council.
And I think.
Oh,
There may be more.
There may be more, right? Okay, CEO.
My apologies, Mr. Chair, I did forget that we didn't really receive direction on the public works truck, that 14,000 that was dedicated to truck 1 in the reserves, that it's going to be now directed to the plow truck, for the motion. Need a motion? We could have a motion to that effect.
Oh, okay, so I'm back to
5C.
5C. Well, actually, it's, the 14,000 is really right now, it's parked. It's staying in the reserve. The concept of using it towards the plow truck is the issue that's on the table, right? All right, so to resolve that issue is what you're looking for. All right, so to resolve that issue, I need a motion that the $14,000 that was placed in the reserves, in the Public Works reserves,
Yes.
for the purchase of the Public Works pickup truck be now transferred to the purchase of the snowplow, the new snowplow unit, previously given pre-budget approval. A mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Cameron, Councillor Hunter. Those in favor? Carried. Okay, I'm assuming that the clerk got it. All right, now. Okay, now, am I free of errors? No hits, no bases, no errors? Okay, so now I can go on to CBO scheduling. Verbal report from the CAO.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to advise that the CBO position has closed, and as part of the hiring policy, that there is one or two members of council to participate in respect to the process for senior management positions. So we would like to schedule interviews next week, and I guess I'm asking the chair if they would select the one or two members that would want to participate in the interview team.
Okay, I appreciate that. So when do you anticipate, so whoever comes forward here would have to be available to meet the interview schedules?
That is correct.
Okay, now, do you have a rough idea of when those interviews would be conducted?
I would say mid to late next week.
Okay, and have you any idea how many interviews?
I would say that we're looking at 4.
Okay, all right, who has an interest here?
I could be.
So Councillor Cameron says he could be interested. One thing I know, he has the time. Anybody else interested?
I would, but I just haven't got the time next week during the day, so. Weather forecast.
March break for you, are you away?
No, I've got Charleston.
Well.
I can't do it, no justice.
Yeah, and my problem is my calendar, well, next week is March break week though, is it not?
That is correct.
That's when you're gonna do your interviews, Mr. Grant?
Well, it might be. Is there any chance that
Monday after 5, Thursday after 5.
is there any chance that the interviews can be evening interviews?
The intent was to do it during the workday.
Intent was to do it during the workday. One thing that we've always agreed upon, just so that the table knows, is that the people who start the interview process should be consistent all the way through, so that everybody that's part of the interview team is there for the entire process. And that's where I get into difficulty, but next week looks relatively free, with possible, well, with a couple of bad exceptions. So, I could make myself available if the timing was right. So that would make Councillor Cameron and myself, the way I read the table. I got that right,
We
gentlemen?
would be able to get advance notice ahead.
Okay, does that end, does that give you what you need there?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so now I'm on to 5F, an agenda item added, facility operator position, and that was yours, Councillor Dillabaugh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Grant, as we were talking before the meeting and as of today, I'm getting a lot of negative impact from the facility, the 2 new people we hired. What I would like from Mr. Spencer for Monday, at the Administration and Finance Committee as a whole, I'd like to know how long was the job posted, like that table? I want to know how many people were interviewed, who was the interview team, where was the full-time operator, facility operator advertised, the job description, and I would like to have, I would want all certificates and experience of the 2 new employees that we hired tabled for Monday. And I also would like to make it clear that this sitting council was not involved in any interviews or hirings of all the applicants that applied for that facility operator position. I want that clear. Could we have that for Monday night?
Okay, so let's go backwards here. You seem to have an interest in making it part of the record that no member of council was part of the interviewing process
Second.
and the hiring process.
Yes.
So I think that that should be a matter of record, and I'm just gonna say that on that particular issue, I've had a number of calls. So, that, I think the record will show that none of us as individuals were part of the process. Now, as to the major part, I'll let the CAO jump in here.
So through the chair, if it is the will of council, we can try to have a staff report prepared for admin and finance.
Okay, can I just see some consensus around the table, or have some debate or some discussion around what's being asked here? Basically, what you're looking for is a review of the process.
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can, for me, and because I use social media, I'm looking at it right now, and February 7th is the last one that I saw for this, and it actually shows where it's listed on the website, and it says that the Parks Rec and Department is hiring a facility operator. So if your concern is that it wasn't visible, I followed it, I liked it every time it was posted, and I reposted it so that others could see it. I mean, as far as the other questions you're asking, I'm not sure. I don't know about the process that was done, but as far as the visual process of it, I saw quite a number of times that it was posted, and myself, I try to notice as many times that we posted.
Posted where though?
I'm looking at it right now on Twitter.
Okay, Twitter. I'm not on Twitter.
Well, that's
Okay, I see what you're
not my
saying.
fault, but
Yeah.
yes.
Okay, so you said Twitter.
Yes,
So it wasn't on Facebook?
Yes, it was.
It was?
It was on Facebook as well. It was shared on all the social media sites, and it actually shows the Township of Edwardsburg Cardinal /job opportunities link as well to the township website. So, and under a big now hiring, and it's very clear what they're looking for.
Mhm.
So, and that was posted several times. The CBO's been posted, I just counted 5 or 6 times as I was scrolling past it to get back to February 7th to this one. So as far as the advertising of it, it was well advertised.
On that forum,
On social media forum,
Yeah.
yes. As far as
Yeah.
newspapers and other stuff, it's not my media, this is my media. So,
yeah. But, again, I'm the same, I'm not my media either.
Sure.
Okay, so, I think what the counselor is looking for is basically a review. Counselor Hunter.
I don't mind having a review, but it is something that, over the last decade or so, well, longer than that, ever since we unionized, council hasn't been involved in the hiring of any union employees. That's all done by management, who does the hiring of union employees. We've never been involved in that, so.
Okay, no, I realize we haven't been involved in it, but the long and the short of it is that the buck does stop here. When there's issues arising, and there certainly are in this particular case, when there's issues arising, the buck does stop here. As I say, I'm getting phone calls too. Questioning not only the process, but the result of the process. So, and I don't know the whole detail. I don't know, as a matter of fact, I don't know any of the detail. I know more from this in the last 5 minutes than I did 20 minutes ago. So, go ahead.
So if I may, Mr. Chair, there is a hiring process and policy in place, and I'm quite confident that process with those steps laid out were followed.
And I think, it's healthy that be reviewed with council, and so it probably should be on the admin finance agenda, so that's the proper place to conduct the review. It's one thing to have a process, it's one thing to have a policy, it's another thing, and council's responsible to ensure that policies are followed. So when we get questions about what happened, it's, we have to do our due diligence and assure ourselves and the public that policy was followed. And I guess the thing that worries me the most about this is that I got a lot of complaints about the fact that And I know, I see your point here about social media, but I get complaints about the fact that it wasn't, quote, advertised, because a lot of people still look at the paper. And we do have regular ads in the Prescott Journal. I mean, we have our meeting ads and our public meeting ads and all of our other types of ads go in the Prescott Journal, which is print media, which a lot of people just follow print media. And in order to be open and transparent and fully open and transparent to the public, I think we have to be, I'm not gonna say everywhere, but print media is still a big thing.
One simple question through the chair, was it not advertised in the paper?
I can't say that at this stage.
You know, the feedback that I'm getting is that no, it wasn't, and we didn't know.
I'm not getting any phone calls, so I'm somewhat ignorant on that concept. However, perhaps in the future, would it be conceivable, and this is strictly up to staff, to give me an answer on that, but before people are hired, and because this is the end of the road right here, this is where the buck stops, would it not be advantageous to us, so we have ideas, either at a meeting, and we have a meeting almost every Monday night, where the manager, whatever manager it may be, or, for instance, and I'm not talking volunteer positions now, I'm talking staffing positions. Would it be advantageous if we were given a list of the candidates and who is being considered in the stronger sense? Then we would know, and if something twigged, we could address it. That's just to staff, that would be my recommendation.
So I think what's happening here is that we're asking for, in some ways, two things. Number one, a review of the process as it pertains to these two particular positions. And number two, in some ways, we're asking for a review of the hiring policy that maybe all the new members of council are not familiar with. So I will ask, and I think I can do this, I can ask that the hiring policy be added to the agenda for the Admin Finance Committee meeting. And so we'll have a review of it at that point. Everybody will be familiar with it. And if there is an appetite for changes, they can be recommended or discussed at that meeting. Now, to go back to the councilor's request, which is, I'm gonna ask, did the clerk capture the request?
I did. I am worried we will have to go into closed session to discuss most of that, because it could potentially lead down the road to discussing the actual candidates. And we don't want to do that in open session.
That's correct.
That is correct.
And,
yes.
but I've already asked for an open session, or
Yes,
for a
for the
closed
last.
session on Monday night to discuss another matter.
For what extent, Rebecca, can you?
Well, you're looking to discuss
Individuals.
the interviews, interview panel, the individuals themselves. We can't do that in open session.
Okay. I guess the bottom line is, I like to be in the loop more. So when someone calls, or if I see someone in the street and they come on to me, I have no answer. I am not in the loop. I'm sorry.
I think that was Councillor Cameron's point too.
Out to lunch.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct.
I was,
We end up getting ambushed here is what it amounts to.
So if I may, Mr. Chair, through both the hiring policy and the delegation of authority for non-senior management positions, that the process is followed, but it's done at the department head. In a number of our departments, we have managers that have a wealth of knowledge, experience, have made many hires, many successful hires, in the past. I have no reason to think that the process is not followed. I understand that at some points, questions can arise, and typically, those that are not successful in the process, typically are upset, and that's quite common. But I still believe that through this process and all of our other processes, that we're following the process and making good, solid hires.
And you know what, and that may very well be, and I really don't think that there's any point to be defensive about it, because if everything was followed according to the process, that will come out in the review, and when it does, I mean, at least we'll be able to say that we reviewed the process and everything was done according to Hoyle.
Yeah, and I don't have a problem with that. I'm glad that everything's done.
Yeah, but I mean, I think the main point is it was made by Councillor Cameron. The buck stops here, and helping us by, this is a small municipality, helping us by, to use the better phrase, or the other phrase, helping us by keeping us in the loop prior to final decisions is probably in a small municipality a wise thing to do. And I know that, and I mean, it can be something that just slipped through the cracks, that we didn't get the, and maybe we did get the notices, I don't know. I don't recall seeing the notice of who got hired or who the final, where did it go out? Did you put it out, or?
So typically, as part of the CAO's administrative report.
Yeah, well, it comes out there. But again, that's after the fact, well after the fact, and after the phone calls have started in many cases. Okay.
Just for one quick sec, if I can, for my own ignorance and through the chain of command, that we talk to the CAO, then they allow us to talk to department heads when we're having conversations and things like that. We're not talking to individuals and that. And I'm hearing that we're responsible, at least through the hiring process, we're responsible to help in the hiring or oversee the hiring of senior level management, but not ring operators.
Well, as
Facility
Councillor,
operator.
as Councillor
So
Hunter
that's
points-
really not under our guys, that's under the manager of that department.
it's a delegated authority at the present time.
I just want to be clear on that.
Yeah, no, it's
That's-
but our responsibility is to make sure that the hiring policy was followed. And one of the, I'll be honest, one of the comments that I'm getting is that, and I don't know, because I haven't even started looking into this, I've just been too busy. But one of the comments that I'm getting is that you advertise for certain qualifications. Do the people that were hired have those qualifications? Because the person on the end of the phone has an impression, rightly or wrongly, that we've breached our policy by asking for certain qualifications and then not sticking to what we asked for when others were available. That's the issue.
I think what you've asked for a review of our hiring policy, I think that's fine. But as far as to get into us as a council to decide whether somebody has qualification or not, pretty near all our applications for any union job, whatever says da-da-da-da, certain qualifications, we would prefer extra will be given to our, credit will be given towards this, but it doesn't say that these are the qualifications, if you haven't got these, we're not gonna hire you.
Well, sometimes it says minimum requirements.
Well, not too many of our union ones would have minimum requirements. Even, but the only one is their truck operators, some of them will need a DZ license to
There's good.
apply,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
very few for recreational ones have any specific qualifications other than, it's nice if you have these, but we got into this years ago on councils, when councils were we were hired. We don't want to get it tagged as political interference and people being hired, that so-and-so got hired because they were a good friend of Counselor so-and-so or Deputy Mayor so-and-so.
And that's where this is going. That's my problem. That's my problem for myself.
When none of us are involved in it, when we're quite clear about that. What management does down through, that's their call to who they think's gonna do the best job for them.
Yes, and my point was, I agree 100%, but we still should be made aware.
I don't mind being told.
Well,
what it is,
and I think that you've been told in this instance that you would be made aware at this, the CAO's,
but in our CEO.
CAO report,
was hired.
right? I mean, you're talking about starting to micromanage every hire that
that
a
only-
minor
that only-
position
that only-
does by the manager.
That only tells us who was hired.
Yeah.
It doesn't tell us the number of people that applied or what the qualifications.
Well,
Again, that's what you have a manager of that department for.
And I agree with you.
Okay, so where are we here?
Do we have anything to do with this?
We're gonna have, maybe the best thing to do is to carry on the discussion in the in-camera session where we can put a few more of the issues out on the table. And at the same time that we will have had a review of the hiring policies in the public session. And just see where we stand as a result of that discussion. And maybe, maybe things will quiet down between now and then. I hope they do. Yeah.
So just for when we go into in-camera session, the only instance that will go in or will come out of is when we're going to be identifying people by name. Otherwise, the rest of the conversation and everything else that can be had in that conversation will be out in the open on camera so that people can see this other than people's names.
You have to be careful because talking about specific positions at this point are identifying specific individuals as well. So it's a very gray area to say
Yeah, I
this,
just want as
and
much of
I
it,
want you guys
I
to
want
be
as
very
much of
aware.
it to be recorded and on camera that without identifying people, but I just want as much of it to be clear as it can.
Yeah, like number of applicants, who all the applicants were, can't do that in open. Discussing who the hires are,
Yeah,
not.
you can't, I know you can't do that. Just don't want things that can be discussed in open, discussed in closed.
Okay, well,
Otherwise, why are we having a conversation?
yes, I'm losing track of where I am here. Get back on track. So we'll move to the question period, which is number 6. And Councillor Cameron, you did indicate that you were gonna raise some.
Yes, this is just some information, Mr. Mayor. I attended the CED 101 workshop this afternoon in Kempville, and it was a pretty good seminar, we'll say. It certainly gave me some insights and some direction as far as economic development goes. But what I would like to mention is, during the session, they passed out these cards, or this card, and it's to do with an upcoming seminar called Teeny Tiny Summits. And I have heard that they're extremely good, and especially Peter Kenyon, the speaker from Australia, is there. He is excellent. I've heard him before at the Economic Development Summit in Kempville back in the fall, anyway, December I think it was. He was there, and they are having some more of those. However, the closest to us is Calabogie, and it's on April the 4th, 2019. And I just want to make you aware of that, because I have heard that these are excellent seminars or summits. If you can possibly spare the time to get there, the information is here, and I'm going to check my itinerary and see if I can make that. I think I can, so we'll certainly go. but I'm just throwing it out there so you know it's available, and if you'd like to attend, it might be worthwhile. Thank you.
And I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna follow up to Councillor Cameron's word. I couldn't remember, I've heard the speaker, Peter Kenyon, speak twice or 3 times now. The last one was at the Roma conference in Toronto in January. I'm gonna have the clerk photocopy this and send it around. If there is any way at all that you can get to hear this guy, you should be there. You will never get a message like the one he's gonna give you. Totally applicable to our township, completely and totally applicable. So, with that question, if there are any others, hearing none, we have no closed session. Chair's looking for a motion to adjourn. Deputy Mayor Deschamps and
Yes.
seconded by Councillor Dillabaugh. Those in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried.